Assalamu alaikum. Is it working?
Yeah.
Peace upon you. I come from Chattanooga today. Originally, I am a Palestinian. I came in 1973, so I've been here almost 44 years. I came to UTC for education, and I love the city, love the country, and I became an American citizen. And all my life there, in the last 44 years, it's been in Chattanooga. So I think the best way to maybe reflect on the subjects we're talking about is to get you through a timeline of when we had a huge crisis 2 years ago, 7/16. It wasn't just Chattanooga that has huge, horrible thing that happened, the entire country. The scope of the event was national and to the point that even international news media was involved, like BBC, Al Jazeera, and everybody else. So it was a lot of pressure, a lot on the city, and the way it went to show maybe an example of how to deal with crisis like this is how we started our day. The event happened and the Marines were killed about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. Nobody in Chattanooga knew what's going on. We knew there were roads blocked, everything else. Nobody knew until we actually heard it from CNN about 4 o'clock. And I was at the cemetery. We were burying one of our members that was around 4 o'clock at the Islamic cemetery. And I had a phone call, said, somebody told me that CNN said there's, and they mentioned the name of the killer and the shooter at the time. And it was a huge shock. I left the cemetery, and as I was leaving, I received a call from the FBI. The FBI, to get you back, the reason I received the call, I'm the president at the time, was the president of the Islamic Society of Greater Chattanooga. But the reason I received it too, because I was in that position, but the other reason is they felt very comfortable to talk to me because we had great relationship over the years with the law enforcement, whether it's the FBI or the police department or the mayor's office, U.S. District Attorney. So all these things we've worked before a crisis happened. As Muslims, we were integrated as part of the community all along, so they know who we are. So for them, they're not afraid. So the FBI now, they're not afraid there's something wrong in that particular center. They knew it's an unfortunate thing. So the reason they called me, they said, what can we do for you? We want to protect you. So can you bring your board member with you and come tonight at around 8 o'clock to the police department? I said yes. So I called the rest of the board members. We went up there about 8 o'clock. It was a very hot summer day. It was the last day of Ramadan. We're hungry, thirsty, and exhausted. And with this event that happened that day, it was devastating for us. When we got there, they were the police officers that I know from past. They were waiting for us. They got us in where a lot of media was in the front, so they told us to come from the back. And we went there in the meeting room. It was the chief of police, the deputy FBI, which he's the highest in Chattanooga because I think the director usually he's out of Knoxville, and a lot of other important people in the police department and FBI. And they sat down and said, what can we do for you? We know you need possibly protection because of what's happened. So their concern wasn't coming to investigate or be, so it was a very positive approach. So we told them we will have the next morning, we have decided while we were going up there as a board that we will not have the Eid or the holiday in the morning because it's sunnah, it's not fard, it's not obligatory to have that. And it is a celebration after Ramadan. And we didn't feel like celebrating. So that step, when we told them that, on our part, we have showed our brief and our state of mind that, and it's true, because we did not feel celebrated the next morning for our Marines being killed, and it doesn't matter who did it, it's just, it was a sad day in Chattanooga. So that went very well citywide. But also we were not afraid. It wasn't because we were afraid, because we also insisted on the afternoon, 2 o'clock, because it was Friday, it happened to be a Friday, that we go and pray our regular obligatory prayer. So it's not a scared, decision to do that. But also that evening, Friday, about 5 o'clock, it was announced that Friday morning that there would be a vigil in a church downtown. So that night, we have emailed all of our community, small community, Muslims there, to be there. Kids, women with hijab, men. So many of us showed up that afternoon at 5 o'clock. The mayor was there, senators were there, Congress people for Tennessee, council people, church people, a lot of people. It was a very broadcasted vigil to come. That church, after everybody talked in that church, somebody said, would the Muslims please stand up? And there was a reason for it. And actually the one that said that was the Muslim that spoke, because they allowed us a spot and asked me to speak, and I wanted to bring somebody else because they're used to me speaking all the time, so I wanted to show somebody else that not just me, always, every Muslim is thinking that way. So he said, would you please stand up? And we were about the third of what's in the church, of all of Chattanooga, which means there was a lot of response from the Muslim coming to mourn the Marines. But the theme that night the great theme was from city officials, even the Congress people that spoke, the senators, and even in Washington, the way it was done and it was spoken about this event did not go after, Muslim terrorists, this and that, the other. It was a crisis for the entire country. It focused on the tragedy rather than who did it or why it was done. It was basically a very, very sad day. That set the stage for us to deal with problems down the road, or potential problems of reaction of people of Chattanooga, their reaction and feeling about Muslims in their community. So that night there was one, I will give credit to the mayor at the time. He said a word or a sentence, say, Chattanooga Strong. So the next day everybody printed, citywide, they printed t-shirts, Chattanooga Strong. So now we are, as a whole city, saying we are strong, we're united. The theme was to be united, to focus on the grieving, the grieving of what's happened, and what else to do for the Marines' families. And then immediately that next day we had the city announced, or members there announced 2 different funds for the Marines' families, one long-term, one short-term, and to collect money, because as you know, if a soldier dies, they only get $100,000 a family. What $100,000 can do long-term, when most of them are with wives, according to the head of the fund raising directors, that most of the families are young women to these young men. They probably, most of them do not even have education. So now they have to go and they themselves, spend money on education so they can be taking care of their families, to go to be a nurse or something else. Their kids, how they're going to be basically taken care of. So we focused on that as a city. The Islamic Society of Greater Chattanooga, within 2-3 weeks, collected the biggest check for that fund. Was 20,000 something, and Nashville people with other mosques here also brought something even a little bit more than that, 22,000. So it showed also Muslims, not just in Chattanooga, but others care. And after that, we had so many meetings with churches. And we had no problems with the community of Chattanooga because of that. But the main reason why we didn't have that kind of problem is years before, we have been engaged with the community. We're not a mystery to them. They know our centers. They've been there. As a matter of fact, when we first thought of building it, I went to about 17 pastors that they meet regularly, and they allowed me 10 minutes. And I showed them the plans. And they came through construction to see where we are on it. And we had a lot of, interfaith meetings back and forth and gatherings. So all that stuff, I guess what I'm trying to say is that you can't work the day of a crisis. You always have to be engaged as a Muslim community, from day one, wherever you are, with the bigger community of your city or town. And so when something happened, you are not, they don't feel you are a threat because they already know you. So as big of a crime and tragedy happened that day, we went through it. Chattanooga, I believe, was exemplary. The police force, the FBI, district attorney, mayor, the churches, the Muslims themselves, everybody played their role very nicely. And that it reminds me of those, very selected words in the allegiance when we say, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you look, one nation that's united. We have to look at ourselves. We're all one. We're not, Muslim, Jew, Christian, whatever, black, white, and indivisible, and under God, because we all recognize the Creator, whichever religion we are. We all have one Creator. And then it comes down to indivisible. We should not ever allow any event or anybody else to divide us and start, fighting each other, no matter what happens. And with liberty, you could allow, and force people to be undivided, like what happened in the Civil War. But that's not enough. Indivisible can be too many ways. But we say with liberty, so you have to be free, everyone has to be free, and justice, where it would control the liberty to only, do what you want as long as you don't hurt others, for all, the word for everybody. So I love that because, and I think that in Chattanooga, that allegiance was represented very nicely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.